what was really sad, and the sad part was I would see families, hardworking families that are going to lose their homes, and they would call me and say, "Hey, what can you do?" I'm like, "I can't do anything. I'm sorry." Um, and they would lose their homes because they couldn't afford to move it, right? Or they didn't understand the laws. And there was no remorse, just another sale to them. But when you're shooting bullets through somebody's home that won or beat you, that is a whole different level. You could have killed somebody. Really, really nice, clean Escalade, at least 70, 80K. So they were living large as everybody else was living in fear, really.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Mobile Home Investing Lessons podcast. I'm here sitting down with an amazing mobile home investor, Jason, who's been investing for, well, in mobile homes, like a half decade or more. It was not always smooth sailing. Jason, this video has been many years in the making. We were talking about making this video because it is a horror story.
Yep.
Seriously. And I mean, you and a lot of the residents of this park, we are going to be talking about the most evil park managers that I have heard of and experienced, and that says a lot around the
Yeah.
country. And you have the unfortunate title to like actually be dealing with them. So
Yeah.
before we talk about that, which I'm sure people love a good horror story, and this is real, so it's terrible. But can we talk a little bit for just a couple minutes? Besides this train wreck of a park and these managers, what's been your experience with mobile homes either since then or before that? Are you continuing to do mobile homes? Are they profitable for you?
Yeah.
How is the people in the business, genuine people? What's your all around experience with mobile homes besides this nightmare manager
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we'll talk about next?
Right. So no, I do mobile home investing. I've been doing it for about 10 years. So I do mobile home investing on land. So I'm a landlord. I do wholesaling, flipping. So kind of the whole gamut. A lot of things I learned from your YouTube channel. This unfortunately was the first park that I started working in after taking your course, and so a lot of lessons learned there. But to answer your question, no, I still invest in mobile homes quite a bit. I'm brokering. I'm a retailer. I still do wholesaling. Still do landlording, and I work with a lot of different parks. A lot of different parks. But the key is I work with good managers, good owners. I look for the red flags right off the bat. But no, I definitely do a lot of mobile home investing. This just happened to be the first and really bad experience the first time around.
What is your average? Is there an average deal? What does that look like? Are you buying from the parks, from the owner occupants,
Yeah,
and then do you
yeah,
sell to, you know,
good question. So a little bit of everything. So some of the parks that I have good relationships with now, after my first experience,
okay.
they'll give me homes, right? They'll give me homes. They say, Jason, hey, we got a few homes here. We just bought this park. What can you do to cash flow these things quickly? So they know I got the resources and tools to kind of turn these things around for them. So they'll give me the homes. Some of these parks will sell me the homes for fairly cheap, right? So depending on capital, resources, and things like that, I'll either fix them myself or I'll wholesale them to other investors or end buyers. Again, using methods that you've taught us. So I do kind of a little bit of all of that. I don't rent in mobile home parks, but I kind of invest with wholesaling and just brokering deals.
Exit strategy inside parks? You selling anything with payments, or you're selling it all for cash?
So first option is always cash. If I can get cash, that's the first way to get out. The second, and most of the time it's on payments. I sell on payments. Uh, so those are the two options that I have. It's either cash or on payments. Those are the two in parks specifically.
Okay, cool. And then you have no problem with investing in the mobile homes on land. Have you ever bought a piece of land and added homes to it, or added more homes to it?
100%. So my first deal actually was I was trying to get into single family investing. It was way too competitive. I had about $40,000 in cash. I bought some land with an old mobile home on it, 1970s mobile home. And I ran the numbers. I'm like, there's a tenant in place. They're paying $800 a month. So I bought, I want to say, an acre of land with a mobile home that existed on there with an existing tenant. So I was cash flowing on day one. And then what I did is I found a used mobile home somewhere in Texas, moved it on to the property,
Yes.
skirted it, set it up, started cash flowing on that one. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I bought that used mobile home for 5K. So I think I was all in 10K. So for a 50K investment, I'm cash flowing pretty nice for those two.
Beautiful. Do you remember if that one was public utilities or private utilities?
Public. So public water, public sewer, which is great. And I always look for that because septic systems and other things are very costly. So I always look for public water, public sewer. So that was my first property. I have 15 now that are all on land. They're all mobile
Yes.
homes. I wasn't trying, but they're all mobile homes
I wasn't
on
trying.
land because I could get them at a good price at that time, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the formula that kind of works for me.
What have you noticed in the last 5, 10 years, as you were mentioning, like you can get them good at that time? What's changed dramatically, or how's
Yeah.
your business
So
changed?
obviously the pricing everywhere has gone up. I mean, the land's gone up, land value has gone up. So you can still find deals, but they're harder to find. I would say you would have to kind of go out of your probably normal search criteria, but you can still find them. A lot of them are fixer uppers. So if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to maybe go out a little further, you can still find those deals. So I still see them occasionally, but they're not as prevalent as they were, 10 years ago, right? When I first started, 15 years ago, actually, I first started.
Understood.
Yeah.
You have what do so you have no intentions of slowing down with mobiles. You want to keep adding to your portfolio. You want to keep investing and helping other people in parks. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I help investors, other investors now, and I kind of plug in. So some of the parks, what I do is they have available lots open, available. So I
Yes.
try to just data aggregate all the lots that are available and then place homes there. So the parks will pay me an incentive to place homes there. Then I'm helping investors out to do that. Some of them in our group. So they'll say, "Hey, Jason, I bought a home. Hey, I need to move it somewhere. Where can I move it to?" So I try to plug in those little holes like that for them.
I love that. And
Yeah.
if someone needs a place to move them to around San Antonio, I'm your guy.
I need to remember that. I need to get a list
give
from
a
you.
give
Yeah,
a give a
I'm
convert.
trying to put it all
Well,
together so we can start plugging in pieces. But yeah, I do that and then work with investors. I work with parks as well to broker some of their homes, some of these smaller parks. So I'm trying to do a little bit more of that, and I'm hoping eventually mobile home park is kind of the goal, but we'll see how that
not
goes.
even hoping. I mean, just why have you had opportunities that you've have you been vetting them already or looking into parks already, or
Excuse
not
me.
so
Yes,
much?
I have. And earlier it was capital. I mean, you need capital and you need partners.
Mm,
And that's what I
true.
realized early on. Because not just knowing some of the business, you got to have the capital backing. You got to have a lot of people that know their due diligence on the back end. So yeah, I'm definitely looking, and that's the plan. Hopefully coming up.
I'm so, what's the word? Glad, proud, something where it's like not spiteful, the opposite of spiteful, where it's like good for you and like that they didn't win. Like you are still here, you are
Oh
still
my
doing
gosh,
your thing.
yeah.
That these managers, what was the fake names that we were going to be using? Just so
Uh, Dick and Teresa.
Dick and Teresa. Okay, and I wanted to put it out there that those are the fake names, to protect people, I guess, or something. Not that I just think that they deserve any protection, but Dick and Teresa, that they did not win, um, because they've ruined a lot of people's lives. And I'll let you take over for this.
Yeah.
In the park. Actually, I made something for this. It's a graphic here, very expensive, and it's for the folks that if you're listening to this on audio, you don't know what I'm have right here, but it's a graph of park managers from very good park managers to bad, terrible park managers. It's a spectrum. On the left, you have people that they initiate holiday parties. They take care of interest. They take interest in the residents. They smile and wave. Like these are managers dealing with the residents. And then you go down the spectrum, and they get a little bit of worse. They get a little bit forgetful. They get tough but fair, which is good. That's on the good side. We will
Yeah.
take tough but fair because
Yep.
again, that keyword is fair. And then they start getting a little moody. They start super overpricing their homes for us investors. It gets a little worse. They don't treat everyone the same. They kind of play favorites. They're a little too strict. And then I would say right around here, right around this line right here, um, that's kind of where I like to draw the line, because there's park managers that will deny buyers for no reason. They
Yeah.
will move the goalpost on you for repairs. Like, oh, we need this fixed. Actually, we need this and this and this fixed. And they keep moving the goalpost because they keep lying, or they're greedy and they steal away your buyers. They're two-faced. They lie to you. They're super strict and then they break laws. And these people that we're going to talk about today, Teresa and Dick, they are way off of the spectrum of this graph here, because even with all this stuff, we can still deal with it. There's still ways to kind of
Right.
overcome this, but these folks are completely evil.
Yeah.
And so I've said, I believe a little bit. Well, I've said what I wanted to say. Can you talk about your dealings with them, the feelings, how you first got involved,
Yeah.
how they treat other people? I mean, you've been dealing with this for, granted, you haven't dealt with them. You got out of that park a few years ago, and
Right.
now we have some. There's like a end to the story, and we'll talk about
Yes.
that at the end. But Yeah, please tell us about these terrible park managers and how you got started and how they fooled you and all the, please. That'd
Yeah,
be awesome,
absolutely.
Jason. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was investing on land as a landlord, buying and selling. I took your course a while ago, and I wanted to really get into parks. So I was, driving around Houston, greater Houston area, looking for parks, and I came across theirs. I noticed that they had a few homes for sale, uh, and I went into the office and started chatting with them about the homes. And I met Dick and Teresa, and they were good. I mean, I didn't get any alarm bells right off the bat. The communications were okay. We discussed some of the homes. Now, the homes they were selling at the time, there were more than I would have normally paid for them. But, I was trying to earn their business, right? So I ended up paying a little bit more for the home, but nothing really as far as alarm bells the first time around meeting them. So we purchased that home, and I think I turned that around in about a month. But as I was going back and forth to the park with the contractors, I started noticing a little signs of passive aggressiveness, not towards me at that time, but kind of towards tenants and the contractors that I had over there. So, but nothing really crazy, just kind of normal, maybe park managers that we come across. And so we got it fixed and we sold it within 2 months. Now, the other thing that was kind of a red flag for me as well was when we were doing the paperwork, I noticed that the seller on record was not the park and the seller was nowhere to be found. Right. So the park managers signed as the seller. So I was like, well, that's kind of odd. The other red flag I saw on that first transaction was the funds were dispersed and paid directly to them, not to the park. So they were advertising these homes as park owned homes, but obviously they were not. So I overlooked it. First deal, I'm trying to get into the park. I just kind of justified, let's just get this done. So we sold that home on payments, and went on from there. Again, small signs, nothing really crazy. So we did that deal, and then I went off to do other park investments. So I worked in other parks, started making some money, and actually needed more projects to do. So a few months later, I came back to check out what they had multiple homes available. So I went and looked at the homes that they had available, and there were two homes. And what they offered me was purchasing the homes and rehabbing the homes. They were actually going to do the rehabs for me because they had crews, and they gave me pretty good pricing on the homes. And so what I did is I brought in a partner as a capital investment partner, uh, and we purchased those homes. And they were going to rehab those homes in a month. They gave me a price to rehab them and purchase them, which was a pretty good price, right? So what I didn't know at the time was they were using the park resources, as in the maintenance crews. They were using the monies from the parks to rehab these homes, right? So for additional profit. So we started with that project, and within a few weeks, you could tell that things are slowing down. The work was just kind of shoddy, and then Dick started kind of changing his persona a little bit. He pulled a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing on us, and just started just giving us excuses. He offered us 2 months of free lot rent as concessions after the work was done. After the work was done, 2 months into the project, he started charging us lot rent. So he's like, "Hey, you guys have to start paying lot rent. Uh, Yada yada yada. I'm not going to do any more work. This costs more money than we expected." So all these kind of things, and he was kind of being kind of passive aggressive with me now at this point, and also with my investor who was investing with us. So things started kind of quickly, kind of going downhill from there. So give me a second here. I got to look at my notes and see what we did next here. Yeah. So the same thing with those two homes. We noticed again the seller on record wasn't the park, and we paid the park manager directly for these homes. It's during that time I started kind of getting more like deep into the project, showing up every day because now we're paying for lot rent. We're getting over budget. Dick and Teresa were not going to finish the homes, and the work they did was pretty shoddy. So I had to bring in my own contractors to come in and pay them an additional amount of money to kind of fix the homes. And so now we're starting to kind of bleed money. But I was there almost every day, so this is like an everyday thing, just trying to get to the finish line. And during that time, I started talking to the tenants a little bit more. The tenants started coming up to me, and I found out kind of more about their stick, kind of what they do, about their passive aggressiveness, about their fines. They would fine people. They would give them speeding tickets in the park. They would evict people on a whim. evict people on a whim. Uh, they would sell homes that they didn't own on payments, and before the tenant buyers would finish paying off their homes, they would get written up and evicted, and the process would start again. They would just start selling these homes. So I started kind of really realizing what kind of people I was dealing with. So yeah, Dick would also chase down a lot of the tenants in his car. He would have camera systems everywhere, and he would chase down tenants, yell at them, berate them, threaten to sue them, all kinds of stuff, right? So he started doing a little bit of that with our contractors. So, at this point, I'm like, we need to get out of here. We got to wrap this thing up. So I'm there every day trying to finish up the project. We're hemorrhaging money for the additional monies for repairing the homes, additional money for lot rent. And we get it finally done, I think, after 4 months, right? So I started marketing these homes to kind of get out of the park. And what I noticed was when we started getting interest in the homes, they would either not be in the office to process applications, or they would purposely delay processing of applications. Uh, so they were just kind of stopping my tenant buyers from being approved, right? Or just give us different excuses. So I was getting the runaround from them quite a bit. So we're going through that process. I was trying to market these homes, and then if I brought in investors that were interested in the homes, Dick would talk them out of buying my homes and saying, these guys don't know what they're doing. They have shoddy work at their homes, and at their homes, even though this was the homes that he repaired, right? And he would talk them out of buying our homes and sell them his homes. So all this stuff started happening. One tenant in particular told me the story about how they were arrested for firing guns in the park. And if you got a few minutes, I'll go into that. Um, what happened was they evict these tenants in the park because most of them are either undocumented or uneducated, right, about the law. So they don't know that they can defend themselves, they can go to court. So one of these tenants actually stood up for themselves and went to court, right? Went to court and won. And they were not happy about that. So, and this is from what I heard, they were firing off their guns in the park, and a few of the bullets went through that tenant's home. And so cops were called and they both were arrested. I think I sent you some information on that a while back. But that kind of led me into doing a public search about both of them. And this is kind of where I found their long history in California, just huge rap sheet, civil judgments, liens. I mean, just you name it, it was there. So that's when it kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, these guys are like just really, really bad. I got to get out of this park. I think it's that point I kind of called you and kind of beside myself because A, I wasn't able to get any of these tenant buyers approved. B, he's threatening not only my contractors, but me a little bit about evicting me out of the home, out of the park. Um, so it just kind of started spiraling down. My investor obviously is asking for his capital. So it was just a bad scenario all the way around. One of the homes I was able to get a tenant into, just a long-term tenant, and I normally do not do rentals, but I mean, I was hemorrhaging money and I thought this would stop the bleeding. So I got a tenant into one of the homes and they lasted 2 weeks. So the first process was getting them approved. We got them approved finally, and Dick and Teresa were harassing them day one. They were threatening them about their dogs, about just parking. They were threatening him about, they accused him of selling drugs. Dick was staked out at their house with cameras at night, just watching them, just very sociopath type behavior. So within a few weeks, they moved out. So I was again stuck with two homes, paying lot rent, and no way out, right? And moving homes out of the park wasn't an option because a few of the movers that I called would not work in the park because they knew Dick, right? He would jump out in front of cars and block you from moving in these homes out. So I didn't know if that was going to work. Uh, but yeah, it was just a tough situation. What I ended up doing, long story short, was I just reduced the price of both homes, wholesale prices, and try to sell them that way. That in itself was an ordeal with a lot of just hurdles. I had a realtor friend of mine personally escort tenant buyers and investors to the office to apply. And after another month and a half, we finally sold them for a pretty big loss, pretty big loss. Um, so there's some details in between that we can come back and address, but there was just a lot of issues there with both of them. The two buyers that eventually ended up buying my trailers, 6 months later, one sold, the other one moved their home out because of just the issues they had with the park management as well. Yeah.
how much do you just do disclose that these managers are dirtbag manipulators, sociopaths? I mean,
Yeah.
what are your
So I mean,
thoughts there?
their game or their scam, and it's really, they prey on the weak and defenseless, right? I mean, that's what they do. They steal homes from hardworking people, knowing that they can't defend themselves. It's just bad overall. I have no regrets about it. Families, I've seen them. They call me and say, "Hey, Jason, can you help me?" I'm like, I don't know. I really can't help you because I'm kind of stuck myself, right? They had the whole system on lockdown at that park, right? And the owners were unfortunately just absentee, right? They're from out of state. They were absentee, so they had resources with the park, monies, contractors, everything. He was pretty much the sheriff, right, of that local municipality, and he would just do what he wanted. And they were stealing homes and just reselling them. So it was just very immoral what they were doing. They wouldn't give you title to the homes. Some homes you did get title, but part of their game also was if they sold a home on payments, they wouldn't provide you title, and before you ended up paying off that home, they would uh, they would evict you. Right, you start getting the speeding tickets, the violations, and you're gone. They get the home back. So it was just bad overall. These guys were just really, really bad. The worst that I've seen even since then. Right, they had no qualms about kicking people out, stealing their homes. You know, it was
It's
bad.
amazing. Yeah, I mean, to really affect good people who are paying on time and to like think so little, to think nothing of them, but to then force them, to bully them, to scare them away so they can make more money, so they can buy more. Didn't they have like a nice, they had the nicest home in the
Oh,
park. They
dude,
had an
dude.
Escalade or something
Oh
or
man,
two.
yeah, that's right. You reminded me. I forgot about that. They had a really nice double wide home. They had the nicest home in the park, completely upgraded oak cabinets. They had three or four vehicles. They had a really, really nice, clean Escalade, at least 70, 80K. So they were living large as everybody else was living in fear, really. A lot of people there, I mean, the other thing is people there lived in fear. You could sense it, right? With the tenants. I mean, everybody was scared. What's going to happen? Are they going to evict me? Am I going to get written up? And the other problem is, let's just say you do want to move your home out. Moving a home isn't cheap, right? So a lot of these people that have these homes, they can afford to move the homes out, and they know this, right? And so, but yeah, they were living really, really large. So that's what kind of really stung, right? They're living large and they're screwing everybody else over, and nobody was stopping them, right? There was nobody to stop them. I know you and me talked about it a little bit, the attorneys and things like that, but it takes a lot of resources, to do that, and so unfortunately, I couldn't do it at that time.
And they moved from California. They just packed up. Then they're causing problems over here in Texas, and then
Yeah,
if they were
yeah,
to move, they're going to go somewhere else. And
somewhere else.
they're so good, like you said, they know who has money, they know how much they can extract from people, or at least what I mean, we've talked enough about this, and they know they're the managers on that graph that I had before. It's like you can
Yeah,
sort of see through them a little bit if you go to talk to them a couple times. Most managers show their true colors, but these ones were sociopath enough to know who can they extract the most money from, and let's keep them on the hook for a while, and then let's cut them loose when we don't need their help anymore. So that's that's just so off of that scale before. I mean, it's not even like an 80-20 rule. This is, again, by far most, some managers fit on that graph, like I said, but these ones are just awful how they can look people in the eye, the people that are really paying them and that depend on them, and then they're just so manipulative just to line their pockets a little bit more, and to not even let them stay in the house or jack up rents, or just it's just, I mean, were the Google reviews at this park reflective of that?
yeah.
Do you remember?
Good point. Yeah, two things. Good point. Because going back to what you said, when I initially met them, I came in as an investor, and I think part of that was just the act, right? Hey, this guy's an investor; he's going to buy my home. So they treated me with a little more respect than they did with other people at first, right? So I think they want people to buy their product, which is these stolen homes. But that slowly changed later, right? And when they find other people or their true colors show, right? But going back to the Google reviews, that's another thing in lessons learned that you can look at because yeah, the Google reviews were bad. One lady on the Google review essentially stated that these guys stole her home and were trying to kick her out of the park. So those are one of the red flags and part of the due diligence process after that you definitely need to do before you invest in a park. So I got some lessons learned definitely from that park that I can share. Part of the problem I had, I think, also was just like you said. you start getting in deep, right? I mean, you start having investor money that's involved. You have two homes. They start pulling a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde on you. But then, what do you do at this point? At this point, and the full spectrum of who these people are. What's your exit strategy? You got to get out of there, but you can't piss them off, because if you piss them off, who knows what's going to happen, right? So you're quite literally stuck, and it just kind of gets deeper and deeper in, right? So you kind of have to look at these warning signs early. The other part is the park managers. One of them was a broker, a retailer here in Texas, and she would give you every excuse about it not giving you title. The person that's doing the title is out sick. They're busy. It's the holidays. I mean, name it. They give you every excuse. But yeah, I mean, once you get in deep, I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, at that point to get out, right? Because what do you do? Trying to get out, you're trying to save your investment as much as possible, but it causes a panic whenever you kind of do that.
Oh, you lost, I mean, tell us about that. You must have lost like nights of sleep or just been so what, depressed, angry, pissed
Yeah.
at them, at
Oh,
yourself,
yeah.
or I mean, I don't, yeah.
Everything. So I mean, I think I called you a few times. I mean, it was a gamut. It was pissed. Pissed was the most. Frustrated, desperate. I mean, I was panicking because what do I do? I don't have any options here. I'm hemorrhaging money. I can't sell these homes because they're blocking me from selling these homes. If I move these homes, he's going to try to block me. Um, so, yeah, sleepless nights for sure. It's probably most definitely the most stressful investing that I've ever done, and it lasted for weeks because I didn't have a resolution. I didn't know how to get out of that situation. And I know we talked a few times during that time. I was going to hire an attorney. I tried to skip trace the owners, which we'll talk about here in a little bit when we have time, I guess.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was completely stuck, and I thought I had some experience, doing the different types of investing that I did and dealing with different types of people because I've worked with difficult people before. I worked with semi-criminal elements before, but this was the worst. I mean, this was just really bad because they controlled all facets of that process.
I'm glad I'm one of the people you did sell to. They were both investors and one eventually moved the home out. Is that what I
One,
heard?
one, yeah, one was an investor, and the other one was in buyer as a young family, and they moved in there, and the investor moved out within 3 months because I think Dick and Teresa were harassing them. Same thing, cameras, jumping in front of their car, waving that you're going too fast, reporting them, and the other folks moved out, I think, after 6 months, from what I heard.
That first person you put on there on payments, did they stay for the full time? Did they eventually pay you off? What happened with that first one?
They did actually. Their note just expired a few months ago.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah. So they they uh they were harassed originally, but I think he works quite a bit and he just was gone a lot. So there wasn't much there for them to harass. He wasn't there enough to harass. So fortunately for me, that one home on payments, I didn't have too many issues with. But that one home did kind of segue into me ending up talking to the new management that came eventually.
okay. I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
We have a lot of, or before we talk about that and sort of the resolution or new management and
yeah,
um, we besides investors that listen to this podcast, there's a lot of mobile home buyers as well.
yeah,
What is your advice for mobile home buyers to avoid situations like this in their local area? What can they
yeah,
do? I mean, even if it's overkill, like what is some
yeah.
of your best advice?
100%. Yeah, specifically after that park, and it being the first park that I worked in, and working in a lot of really good parks afterwards. First thing is trust your instincts. I mean, you got to trust your instincts and vibes, right? You get these vibes and instincts off people, and you got to trust your instincts. That's the first thing, right? But second thing is put everything in writing. Everything in writing. Make sure everything's detailed because there's just a lot of unscrupulous people out there that will, take advantage of you. So you want to put everything in writing. The other thing is, starting off in mobile home investing, you're trying to earn business, and sometimes you'll concede too much or bend over backwards. Like I paid too much for a home, even though I saw some flags, I still wanted to work with them because I was trying to earn their business. You just have to be honest with yourselves. If you got a good deal and you're working with good managers and you can sense that, it should be a win-win for both parties. It shouldn't be a win for them and a negative for you. Because if you start off in a position of you losing, a lot of times it doesn't end up well for you. Uh, the other thing is Google reviews. You brought that up. I mean, it was after the fact. You look at Google reviews and see how the tenants and other people are giving feedback to the park. The other thing is you talk to the people in the park. You talk to the tenants. You talk to investors. Just people in the park to get a vibe. Because once you do that, and specifically in this park, you got the whole vibe from just talking to a few people, right? That's the other thing to do. And the last thing is public records are your friend. So just public records, especially when you're working with park owners or managers, because there's park owners that are also similar that you run across that are not to this level, but they're you probably don't want to work with. So public records, Google reviews, talking to people, and things like that that I would definitely do. But no, definitely there's always opportunities, but you just got to do your due diligence.
We think so much about screening our buyers or screening our tenant buyers, but to screen the park manager, I mean, someone that you're going to live with, that is, we expect them to be doing right by us, or we put them up on a pedestal. I know I used to before I got into mobile home investing, or
Absolutely.
talk to a lot of managers, that they must know it all, or they must really care about the people. And to talk to the residents, is that something that you will do even to this day? I mean, even if there's no, like, let's say there's no other homes for sale, you don't have any numbers to residents, will you knock on doors? Will you talk to the neighbors or make, chit chat? Or
Absolutely. Yeah. So new parks that I go to, I will definitely talk to whoever's outside. I won't necessarily knock on doors, but if I see somebody outside, I'll talk to them and ask questions. And generally, you can get a good vibe from just talking to a few people, right? So I try to do that, and then I'll call the park manager as well. And so, and I've turned down there's parks I've went to and I've spoken with tenants, people in the park or the park managers, and I decide not to work there because I don't want headaches. I want to work in a park that needs my help, that I can provide solutions for, and it's going to be a win-win for both of
yeah,
us.
there'll always be another opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I guess looking back, I was trying very hard to earn the business in this first park. I just wanted to be successful in this first park, and so I bent over backwards. Again, I didn't look at the red flags. Um, so going forward, and even now, those things I definitely look at. If I get a bad vibe from a park manager, I'm not doing business with them because they're the gatekeeper. The owners may be great, but they're the gatekeeper. If they're going to give me a hard time, it's just something that I don't want to deal with. What was really sad, and the sad part was, I would see families, hardworking families, that are going to lose their homes, and they would call me and say, "Hey, what can you do?" I'm like, "I can't do anything. I'm sorry." Um, and they would lose their homes because they can afford to move it, right? Or they didn't understand the laws, and there was no remorse. Just another sale to them.
They did everything right, those folks.
Yeah,
Talk about like doing things right and
yeah,
the world not being fair, or
right.
like that situation not being fair.
100%, 100%.
We what ended up, so we purposefully waited to record this video until there is a resolution, was a resolution. Can you talk more about that and
Yeah. So
a bit
I was
with
I
that?
was trying during that time to find the owners. Skip tracing. I could not get a hold of the owners. And what happened was I still had one home there that I mentioned earlier that was on notes. I got a call and a text that's saying I was late on lot rent. I'm like, interesting. And so I called back and they said I was late on lot rent. And I spoke with somebody that wasn't Dick and Teresa. They said they were managers from out of state for the park. And so I told them, hey, I have a note on a home and I'm a lien holder, but I am not the tenant. And so we kind of talked through that a little bit. She understood, and she was there doing an audit because things weren't adding up, right? And she was mentioning that they they had placed the Teresa on leave because just things weren't adding up. She was there to do a full audit. So from that conversation, I cleared up the lot rent thing. I told her I could probably fill her in on a lot of what was missing and what was going on there. So from that, it was a longer conversation, a huge long conversation about what they're doing. Because at the time, Dick was still working there as a maintenance guy because he was a maintenance guy, even though he was the one calling the shots, and Teresa was just kind of the
Uh,
technically the park manager. Dick was working with under the radar with no issues, and Teresa was under the microscope a little bit because the numbers weren't adding up. Vacancy is high. We got no lot rent here. Things like that weren't adding up. Monies were being spent, right? And we know they were going towards homes and other things. So I filled her in on a lot of that, and we talked. And the next day we had a follow up, and they notified me that Dick and Teresa were terminated from our conversation and what they knew and what they told them what was going on. They terminated both of them and had 30 to 60 days to vacate the park in their home. And I said, wow, justice served after like 5 years. Uh, Crazy. And she was in a bind because she's like, all these tenants were coming to the new management says, or they're like, hey, where's my title? Hey, where's my paperwork? And they had no clue what any of this was. So it was just a huge, huge mess. But it was a huge discovery for the out of state management company to find out the true horror of what was going on there. Right. Yeah. So when I told him it was unbelievable. So I sent him the file, the arrest records, the California stuff. They were completely shocked. which is surprising to me because you would think that a big company like that would do some more due diligence on their employees and do some more auditing, but it took 5 years. Yeah.
Were you able to get, you mentioned before about skip tracing the owner. Where did that lead to?
So when I skipped Tracy owner, there was somebody I did get a hold of, but he was very short, and he redirected me back to Dick and Teresa. He didn't want to speak, and so that didn't go far. So what happened later on, and this was during shortly after the first incident. What I'm telling you now with corporate was a few months ago, 6 months ago, just a chance call about late lot rent led into the deeper conversation about what's going on with the park, and uh, what happened since then.
That is a nice, well, that's a wrap up. They really should be an eye for an eye, or I don't know, they should be given somehow equal justice on all those people that they messed up, and they should be in jail for the rest of their lives, or even that's too good for them. What is,
Absolutely.
um, because this is what they know, and they've gotten away from it for so long that I'm sure they will scam their way and weasel into another community.
Yeah, and I forgot. There's another detail you just reminded me about the due diligence, right? So these kind of people go from park to park, kind of doing the same thing. There were two other parks that I called. Two in Greater Houston. One that said they were terminated. The other one, which was close to this one in the Pearland area, they worked for. I talked to the owner directly, and he was livid. He still had just they were stealing from him as well, and they actually had a case against both of them, and I think they settled. But he was livid, and again, you call other parks, and just do some due diligence. But he knew them very well, and so this is what they do. They just go from park to park, running their little gamut. They tell the owners they got it covered. They got a lot of experience. We'll handle everything, and they start. This park manager that I spoke to, he figured things out pretty quickly. It was about 3 to 6 months, um, but by then a lot of damage is already done.
I am, it's nice that the folks in that park can rest a little bit easily, and but then they are going somewhere else, and there's other people in the world, other people in the country that are listening to this maybe, and they're thinking, oh, how can I take advantage of people? But luckily that is the super few and far between, and with a little bit of research and asking questions, we can we can stop from investing in those parks or buying homes in those parks. And about just the park owners maybe becoming more corporate. I'm surprised that was a corporate park. I thought all along that this park, the one that Dick and Teresa were originally at, where you met them, I thought that was more mom and pop. But you're saying it was a corporate, it was a big
So,
corporate. I mean,
I think what happened was, and I don't know for sure, but it was a small company, I believe, that they based out of Arizona, and I think what happened is either the owners hired new management and they started doing the auditing,
hmm.
or the management was out in Arizona and they just literally just did not uh, do any auditing or anything like that. But for my initial search, it was a smaller mom and pop. When I say mom and pop, they were investors. They had other smaller commercial investments. They weren't a big company, right? Um, so I don't know if this other big corporate management company was in play earlier, or if it was something that maybe the owner said, "Hey, we need to really start looking at what's going on here," and they hired that management company. If that makes sense.
You continued on to invest another day. We try to keep our losses, if any, on the smaller side, and our wins a lot bigger and way more of them. And this has certainly taught you, I mean, wish you didn't have to learn those lessons in the first place, but taught us all. And thank you so much for being on this call, in this podcast, to talk about this story. Um, and just that you lived it. I mean, there's no, we can't project that into people's heads listening, but hopefully as people do walk away, realizing the importance of, it's not just the deal. I mean, it is the location, it is the management. Those park managers, they are the captains of this ship that can just steer it into an iceberg, or can really do right by people. And it's amazing how much power and control that they actually do have, especially when the
Absolutely.
owner's gone or his head up his butt. Um, so
Absolutely. They're the gatekeepers, but no, it definitely changed, going back to your first point, it didn't stop me or slow me down at all. It just changed my perspective of who I'm going to work with. And I just stuck to those specific due diligence points I mentioned earlier. I'm going to work with people. There's a win-win situation. They're honest. They're not looking to screw people over, things like that. Normally, you'll get those vibes, but just trust your instincts as well. definitely. And I work with the new park as well now, so it's a 180, complete 180 now. So that's kind of cool.
That is very cool. Have you ever been tempted in a park that you don't like the management? Were you ever tempted to buy the home and try to sell it to them to say, hey, I'm going to pull the home out of here unless you buy it from me? Or just straight up thought, I'm going to buy the home and pull it out of here and I don't even have to deal with the park management? Or do you just walk away?
I walk away. I usually don't do that. Yeah, that's not an option I usually go with. Just I guess part of the first experience with these guys, again, I just want to be a win-win. If I can help the park, and I just come in a position where, what can I do to help you guys, right? Where do you need help? Um, so normally, no, I don't do that. If I buy something in the park, I talk to the park and make sure we're kosher before I do anything, and that's played out well for me.
Good answer. Agreed. And there's enough parks to
There's enough parks.
go around. There's enough
There's
homes.
enough
Yeah.
parks. There's enough business. Yeah, there's no point in really trying to force the issue with a bad park or bad management.
Good point. Yes. We don't need those deals. Do you do you have any other um we've been talking for a little bit now. Do you have any other something that you wanted to add, advice for newer investors, maybe people going through the same situation, anything that we didn't cover? Or
Yeah. So due diligence. I mean, just kind of the points we covered first. If you're looking for investments, there's a lot of parks generally in around the major cities. Just drive around, talk to park management, just like we discussed. Talk to tenants. There's always opportunities there for investing, and there's talk to people in our group. This group has been great, and just again with you, John, I just wanted to mention during that time, that whole process, you were a huge outlet. I mean, I was beyond stressed, and you just talking to me, being a sounding board, giving me options was huge. So you definitely want to have your community. So our group is great. I love the people in our group. There's a few of the guys that I chat with and girls I chat with, but reach out to somebody because somebody probably has been through the same situation or can give you advice, right? So that's huge. And yeah, and again, just thank you for being there for me at that time. But yeah, just talk to people. Our group is great, especially on the Facebook page, or just reach out. But there's a lot of opportunity out there. You just have to kind of do the grunt work at first. I was driving around to all these parks and meeting people, so the more action you take, the more results you get.
great. That last sentence, that perfect. Yes, that is so true. It
Yeah,
is a reflection of what we do.
yeah,
Um, Thank you so much. This is awesome. I want to know
yeah,
you for, well, yeah, I'm gonna know you for many more years to come. We're not going anywhere. You have a lot more parks to help and to purchase.
yeah.
There's no reason why not, or I'd love to do something together. Man, that would be cool.
That would be
So,
cool.
yeah.
That'd be really cool.